Good morning, America. Thanks for joining us here on the Andy Kirkendall Show, where Andy interviews actors, writers, filmmakers, athletes, musicians, songwriters, and more, and asks them, what do you do and why do you do it? So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the show.
Good morning. Welcome to Morning Moments. Thank you for joining us today. And today I have a special guest from Florida. She is the founder of Healthy Souls International, which works and deals with natural disasters. And she's a great community worker. And it's my privilege to bring to Morning Moments Maria Davila to Morning Moments. Welcome, Maria.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity, Andy. This is great. You're amazing.
Well, thank you for saying yes. Thank you. I appreciate that. And let me know, as I ask the question, can you fill us in? What do you do and why do you do it?
Well, I'm known as a community leader, successful businesswoman. I even had a burger named after me, as I shared earlier with you. And what I do is I empower men and women to have a clear mission statement, vision, and values for their business. And I do this by offering a 3-day course. Biggest problem my customer suffers is they fear walking away from the 9-to-5 job and not having a weekly paycheck. And when someone lives in fear, they lack faith, right? So they worry more about obstacles that don't even exist yet. And then, they worry more about their obstacles than they do their vision in life. And I used to be like that. I used to work 2 jobs as a single parent, and I always wanted to have my own business so I could have the freedom to do mission work, but I was too scared. And if you let me share something with you, I believe having a clear mission statement, vision, and values gives you clarity and confidence that leads you in the direction of reaching your goals and building a successful business. And I'm the founder of a nonprofit organization, like you said, Healthy Souls International. And my mission statement is to be the hands and feet of God, delivering hope, aid, and awareness to people all around the world who are undergoing pain, hardship, suffering from any type of major disaster, emergency, or hazardous conditions.
In Florida, you have your share of disasters down there, right?
Yes, sir. We just were hit with Hurricane Ian just recently. And it was a busy season. It was a busy season for us. Puerto Rico was hit, and we were originally supposed to go to Puerto Rico, and then the hurricane came here. It actually hit Daytona twice. Both, there was Hurricane Ian, and there was the other hurricane after that hit us twice. So it's been a busy hurricane season, I can tell you that.
Why disasters? Why do you think that you have a passion for that?
It kind of fell in my lap. I've been on mission trips with my pastor, with our church, to Haiti. And I didn't even know I was gonna like doing missions or anything. I went to Haiti one time, and this is after years. My pastor said, "Come on, you need to go to Haiti." I was like, no, that's not for me. And then I finally broke down and went, and then I loved it so much. I went 2 more times after that. I was going to keep going. Every time they went, I wanted to keep going until they had the protest down there. And the violence increased, so the church stopped going for a while. But that's where the seeds were planted for me and inspired me to want to do more mission work. And during my trips to Haiti, I was in the healthcare field before. I know I mentioned I worked 2 jobs in the healthcare field, and I would go to Haiti. I was always one with the first aid kits. I had the colorful Band-Aids for the orphans, and everyone had, like boo-boos and stuff that they didn't have before I got there. It was cute because they wanted a colorful Band-Aid. But one of the things that really struck me is people don't know how to do first aid or CPR in third world countries. No one's teaching that. And that was supposed to be, the heart of my mission, to be the hands and feet of God, delivering hope, aid, and awareness, but teaching them first aid and CPR in third world countries. And that's how it started for me. However, there was a huge shift over the years, and it got me into disaster relief and founding a nonprofit. And I can explain that if we have time. I can explain how that started.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go and talk about your talk about that, and also talk about how people could get involved in their area, or where, or even with you.
Okay. Well, December 2019, I founded the nonprofit organization Healthy Souls International. At Christmas Eve, that same year that we founded the nonprofit, I was donated a flight to go over to Bahamas. I was originally supposed to go in a charter plane, and we loaded up this charter plane that was donated with all these supplies, and we flew over, and it started downpouring. The rain was coming down so hard that we fell off the radar. They thought that we had crashed or something, and we were flying blind through the air. We get over to the Bahamas, and there's no lights on the airport. Everything, was still destroyed from the hurricane. So you couldn't see the landing strip. And we had to turn around and come back to Florida. As soon as I get off the plane in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, I get a call, and they said, "We heard what you're trying to do. We know that you need to get this stuff over." This was the day before Christmas Eve. And if you're willing to go on Christmas Eve tomorrow, we'll give you another flight. Except this time it was on an old DC-3 warplane. That was like the coolest, that was like the funnest, neatest thing to ever experience, flying over to Bahamas, doing disaster relief on Christmas Eve in a warplane. I show up, and the Bahamian army's there. They're like looking at this plane, like, who is this in this old warplane holding their guns? I get off the plane, and I hand them the manifest, and it was all turkeys and toys, and they thought that was hysterical. Personal care packs. And so just imagine this little 5'3" Latina showing up in another country in a warplane, and walking up to soldiers holding, it was just an experience that I don't know too many people have ever got to go through. But that's just how my God moments were, like, throughout the whole time of doing disaster relief work for Healthy Souls. What I didn't say is, when I went back to Fort Lauderdale that night after delivering all these turkeys and toys, I had to come back to Daytona, and I didn't have a place to live. I was homeless, and nobody knew that. And that's when God worked most in my life. Like, we did disaster relief, and I wasn't even really trying to build that, because I was more worried about my situation, and all the doors just flew open. You see, I was in a car accident that I lost both my jobs, and it was just kind of one nightmare after another. But at the same time, got the doors just flung open for me to do the nonprofit work and do disaster relief. And I just pressed through. I said, "God, if this is your will, this is what I'm going to do." And I did it. He kept telling me, "It's not about you." And that's just what it was. And still doing it today. I just came back from Mississippi 3 days ago. We were over there helping serve the communities that were affected by tornadoes.
And there's always need, and there's always going to be a disaster. So I think a lot of times people think, well, there's these big organizations that deal with it, the Red Cross, and there's other faith-based organizations. Why do they need me? But God uses everybody.
He does.
There's always a need there,
Yeah.
isn't there?
Yeah, and it seems like there's more disasters everywhere now than there was 5 years ago when I started. Like,
Yeah.
the first mission trip that I led, doing disaster relief, was in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. And that at that point, I had just been in the car accident. I just lost both my jobs, and I started, planning that mission before it happened. So I was like, I still have to go. We already have the funding, we already have the medicine, and it was me, a doctor, and a nurse, and we flew over and had medical clinics on the island. And I came back not thinking I'm still going to be doing disaster relief, because now I got to deal with these car accidents and injuries and surgeries and everything. And I still did it, and I tried to get a different job and a different career, and God was like, no. Because you know, I wanted, my heart was in missions. I had prayed for years, like, how can I serve you full time when I'm working two jobs, God, when I'm a single mom and I'm doing all these things. And, he kind of answered that prayer, and he's got a sense of humor, sitting at a stop sign on Easter Sunday, April 1st. And it was actually April Fool's Day too. And then while I was sitting at a stop sign, I'm hit by a vehicle, which was the beginning to everything just kind of falling apart after that. While my life was falling apart, but what his plans were coming together, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So down below, I'm putting a website down below so that people can find out what your needs are. And you've got a huge volunteer base that you're working on, funding to do the next thing, because there's always a need. I want folks to look those things up. Also, I want them to pass this interview on to somebody else, because it's, a lot of this is just word of mouth, folks. And God speaks to the heart of an individual, gives them their purpose, their plan, their call. And as they fulfill that, then God also makes arrangements for it to be passed on. And you may be the person that she needs to pass it on to the next person in the form of this interview. So pray about how do I get this message out? How do I pass it on? What can I do about this? Even as I have today said, well, what can I do? And that's what I want to do, is just share this. As we close this interview, I want you to take time and pray for Maria. You see, God has given her heart something that maybe he hasn't given yours, but she needs your prayers to fulfill that. She needs your prayers, folks, and you need the practice. So pray that God would work mightily in her as she continues to work on as the founder of this Healthy Souls International. Thank you so much for being with us today in Morning Moments.
Thank you.
Please pass this interview on. Keep coming back, and may God richly bless you.